The twin sons of Crithar had almost disappeared beyond the jagged horizon when the human crew of the starship Odyssey stepped onto the alien soil. The air was heavy, tinged with a strange scent like iron and wet stone. Towering rock formations cast long shadows over the red dust plains, and the faint cries of unseen creatures echoed in the distance. Humans had been here for only a few hours, yet already they felt the strange rhythm of this world, a rhythm that was alive and dangerous. "Look at them," muttered Zirin, a Critharian scout pointing at the humans. "They carry nothing useful, no energy scanners, no plasma nets, no thermal shields. Only those small, flat devices." The Critharians laughed in unison, their high-pitched voices echoing oddly in the canyon-like terrain. "Compasses from Earth, how primitive, how useless." The humans, however, did not respond to the ridicule. Captain Elias Kane adjusted the strap of his pack, brushing dust from the edges. His team moved calmly, checking small compasses that hung around their necks, their fingers tracing the magnetic needles as if drawing invisible maps in the air. The compasses seemed simple, trivial even, against the Critharians' advanced equipment, yet Kane's team moved with quiet purpose. Instructor Lyran, a Critharian with silvered scales and sharp, analytical eyes, stood a few paces away, arms folded. He was a veteran of many hunts, a strategist whose life had been devoted to understanding the creatures of Crithar. He had trained countless teams of Critharian hunters, and yet something about the humans unnerved him. Their movements were precise, careful, and almost unnatural in their calm. "They move like they belong," Lyran whispered to himself, almost against his own logic. Night would fall soon, and the humans had volunteered to join the first hunt of Crithar's predators. The Critharians were confident in their superiority. Their sonar arrays, energy mapping devices, and thermal trackers were unmatched. A human's compass could not possibly compete. "Do they not feel fear?" one young Critharian asked, watching the humans load their packs with small instruments and rations. "They are made differently," Lyran replied, not taking his eyes off Kane's team. "Humans are resilient, and they are patient. That is dangerous in a hunter." The human team set up a small camp, quiet and efficient. While the Critharians shouted and debated strategy in a flurry of energy signals and chirps, Kane's team simply observed. They studied the terrain, noted the shifting winds, and measured the faint hum of life in the soil with their basic tools. Zara, the human navigator, traced the path of the setting suns in the sky, then nodded to Kane. "They are tracking something," Lyran said, his voice low, almost reverent. "And not with their machines, they track with sense." The humans didn't just move, they merged with the night. The Critharians laughed at first, seeing them follow small compass readings along uneven terrain. "How can these Earthlings survive in the dark without thermal imaging?" someone sneered. "They'll be food for the first predator that finds them." As darkness descended, the sky transformed into a deep, bruised purple. The twin suns had disappeared, leaving a sliver of faint starlight and the bioluminescent glow of distant plants. Strange cries pierced the night, low, guttural roars of massive predators that prowled the plains, their eyes reflecting faint red light in the distance. The Critharians adjusted their sonar shields and activated their energy scanners. The humans adjusted nothing. Kane crouched beside a small rock, holding the compass lightly in his hand. "Steady," he whispered. "The path is clear. Follow the markers." The markers were tiny, sticks and stones arranged in patterns that only humans could easily read. They traced the movement of previous predators and the safest paths through the hunting grounds. No amount of advanced technology could replicate this ancient skill, honed over millennia of survival on Earth. The Critharians did not understand this. Their sensors, as precise as they were, could not read the silent language of the land. They did not see the faint scratches in the soil, the crushed grass signaling where a predator had passed, the subtle shift in wind direction that hinted at a lurking creature. As Kane led his team into the dark plains, Lyran followed at a distance. His curiosity was stronger than his pride. He could feel the tension in the air, the pulse of the predators, the rhythm of the humans, and the imbalance of expectation. "Do you really trust that tiny needle?" Zirin asked him, her scales bristling in disbelief. Lyran did not answer immediately. "Watch," he said, his voice almost a growl tinged with awe. Hours passed. The humans moved without sound, carefully, deliberately. They crouched behind rocks, waited, and sometimes paused to whisper instructions to each other in a language the Cretharians could barely recognize. And yet, despite the complete darkness, they navigated perfectly. Every step was measured, every movement calculated. Suddenly, a distant roar split the night. The ground trembled faintly. One of the Cretharians panicked, raising an energy net. Kane held up a hand. "Quiet, do not alert it." The humans crouched low, waiting, using the faint starlight and their compasses to remain perfectly aligned with the predator's path. As the massive creature approached, a shadow taller than a Cretharian tower, they didn't hesitate. They had anticipated its movements, predicted its path, and calculated the moment to act. With a series of swift, silent motions, the humans maneuvered into position. They used ropes and small, heavy snares to trap the predator's legs, not harming it, only immobilizing it. The Cretharians could hardly believe their eyes. Their advanced nets and sensors would have alerted the beast and sent it running. The humans had done it with patience, instinct, and simple tools. Lyron stepped closer, ignoring the shouts of his fellow Cretharians. He felt a strange sense of awe mixed with fear. This is impossible," he whispered. The humans did not look like superheroes. They did not carry massive weapons or flashy technology, and yet they had tamed the untamable in ways the Cretharians could not. Kane stood, brushing dust from his hands. "We respect the creatures," he said simply. "We do not need to kill to understand or to survive." The Cretharians were silent. Their mockery had vanished, replaced with confusion and grudging respect. "Humans," Lyron murmured almost to himself, "they hunt by understanding, not by overpowering. They are patient, precise, and fearless in ways we cannot imagine." The humans did not celebrate. They simply guided the trapped creature back to a secure enclosure, ensuring it would be safe until dawn. Then, as if nothing extraordinary had happened, they returned to their small camp, laying down quietly in the dark. Lyron stayed awake long after. He watched the humans move with ease in the dark, following nothing but a compass and their own instincts. He felt something stir within him, a mixture of respect, envy, and a dawning realization that his entire understanding of survival might be wrong. Night deepened, and the cries of distant predators continued. But for the first time, Lyron did not feel confident in his own mastery of Crithar's night. The humans had taught him, without speaking a single word, that survival was not about the tools you carry, but the knowledge, instinct, and patience you bring to the hunt. The twin moons rose over the horizon, casting pale silver light on the red plains. Kane and his team moved silently to the water source, checking the readings of their small instruments and sharing quiet words among themselves. Each member of the human crew carried a calm confidence that seemed almost alien to the Cretharians, a calm rooted in experience, in instinct, and in understanding the unseen patterns of life and death. Lyron observed from a distance. He could see the subtle ways they communicated, how they read the environment with their senses, and how the simple compass guided them as reliably as any advanced Cretharian device. He whispered again, this time to himself and the empty night, "We mocked Earth, and yet Earth has come to teach us humility." Hours later, when the humans finally returned to the landing site, they carried small samples of flora and fauna, nothing harmful, only for study. Kane nodded to Lyron, offering a hand, not in challenge but in silent invitation to learn. Lyron accepted, feeling a strange weight of understanding settle in his chest. The humans had arrived, not just to explore Crithar, but to show that even the simplest tools in the hands of the wise could achieve the impossible. The Cretharians would not mock again, not tonight, and not ever without remembering the calm, silent humans who walked in darkness with nothing but a compass and came back victorious. The night of Crithar had ended, but the lesson had just begun. The first night had changed everything on Crithar. The Cretharians, who had once laughed at the humans, small compasses and basic tools, now looked at them with cautious curiosity. Instructor Lyron could not stop thinking about the way Kane's team moved through darkness as if it were a living map. He had seen advanced sonar and thermal sensors fail, but the humans had never faltered. The second night brought new challenges. The sun had barely disappeared behind the jagged mountains when alarms from the Cretharian sensors began to beep frantically. A massive predator, far larger than any the humans or aliens had seen before, had been spotted near the northern cliffs. Its roar had shaken the outpost, and dust and debris from its passage created tremors in the ground. Even the most seasoned Cretharian hunters hesitated. Kane gathered his team quietly. "This is what we trained for," he said. His voice was calm, steady, carrying the authority of someone who had faced danger many times before. "We do not panic. We move carefully and we work as one, follow the markers and trust the compass." The Cretharians watched, a mixture of skepticism and awe on their faces. Zirin whispered to Lyran, "Do you really trust these humans? That creature could crush a patrol in moments." Lyran did not answer immediately. He had seen what they could do. He knew, at least in part, that these humans were not ordinary. "We watch," he said finally. "We learn." The humans approached the northern cliffs with caution. Shadows stretched like twisted fingers across the rocks as the twin moons rose. Kane held up a hand, signaling the team to stop. The massive predator's growl echoed from above, a sound so deep it seemed to vibrate inside the bones. "This one is different," Kane said softly. "It is aware. We must move slowly and predict its steps." The team split into small groups, each carrying compasses, ropes, and weighted snares. No flashy weapons, no energy nets. The Cretharians were puzzled. How could such fragile tools confront a creature of immense size and power? The humans paused at a narrow ridge. Kane held his compass and measured the angle to the cliff's edge. "It will move along the wind," he whispered. "Not toward us. We wait for the shift in scent." Hours passed. The humans crouched in silence, their eyes scanning the faint glimmers of moonlight on the rocks. The predator moved cautiously, sniffing the ground, testing its territory. The Cretharians, hiding behind larger rocks, held their breath. They had technology, but in this moment it was the humans' patience and intuition that mattered. A small shift in the wind told Kane all he needed to know. "Move now," he whispered. The team sprang into action with precision, placing ropes and snares along the ridge. The predator sensed something, but not enough. It roared, a sound so loud it made the ground shiver, yet the humans adjusted calmly, silently, their movements synchronized like a single organism. Lyran watched as the humans trapped the predator's legs with weighted ropes. It thrashed and roared, but Kane's team worked as one, predicting every move. One human held a small light, directing the predator's gaze, while another tightened the snare. They did not strike it with weapons, did not harm it beyond immobilizing it. The Cretharians were speechless. "They do not attack, they control," muttered Zirin, "with nothing but ropes and instincts." Finally, the predator struggled one last time, then collapsed, unable to break free from the humans' careful preparation. Kane approached slowly, speaking in a soft tone, as if calming an old friend. The creature, sensing no malice, stopped thrashing. Kane nodded to his team, and they secured it for observation. Lyran stepped forward, his pride replaced by wonder. "I have studied these creatures my whole life," he admitted, "but I have never seen anything like this. They do not fight, they anticipate. They do not strike, they guide." Kane simply smiled. "Understanding is stronger than force," he said. "Fear can make a predator faster, stronger, and more dangerous. Respect and patience allow us to see patterns and survive." The Cretharians were learning fast. That night, they began asking questions, observing how humans read the environment. The humans showed them how to notice faint scratches in the soil, broken branches that hinted at movement, and subtle wind changes that revealed the presence of life. Every step had meaning. Every pause had purpose. As the night deepened, the humans led the Cretharians along a narrow canyon. Shadows of massive creatures loomed above, and strange calls echoed between the cliffs. The aliens' advanced sensors struggled, providing incomplete and sometimes false readings. The humans relied on compasses, observation, and instinct. Lyran found himself following Kane closely, matching his pace. He saw what the humans saw: the faint glimmer of scales reflecting moonlight, the subtle shift of shadows that indicated motion, the tiny vibrations in the soil signaling steps ahead. He began to realize that technology alone could never replace understanding the land and the creatures that lived on it. Suddenly, a group of smaller predators approached from the side, drawn by the sounds of the trapped creature. The Cretharians panicked, ready to fire energy nets, but Kane signaled them to stop. "Watch! Wait!" The humans moved silently, positioning themselves to block the predators without harming them. They used their bodies and simple tools to guide the creatures along safe paths, avoiding conflict. The Cretharians had never seen such control, such calm precision. One Critharian, unable to contain herself, whispered, "How do they know where to move? How do they know what will happen next?" Lyran looked at her, his expression serious. "It is not knowledge of the future," he said. "It is observation, experience, and understanding of patterns. They see what we cannot because they listen, watch, and anticipate." Hours passed as the humans led the predators away, carefully keeping the larger one trapped until morning. When they finally returned to the outpost, the Critharians followed, exhausted and bewildered. Zirin could barely speak. They do not need our technology. They survive better than we ever could in this environment." Kane addressed the assembled Critharians. "We do not wish to conquer Crithar," he said. "We only wish to live alongside its creatures and understand them. Tools are useful, but they are not everything. Observation, patience, and respect matter more than any weapon or scanner." The Critharians exchanged glances, some reluctantly nodding. Lyran, who had once scoffed at the humans' methods, now felt a deep respect and a strange humility. He had learned in a single night that these humans had abilities his species could not replicate. The ability to survive and adapt through intelligence, patience, and teamwork rather than sheer force. That night around the fire, the humans shared stories of Earth's hunters, people who had survived deserts, jungles, and forests using only the simplest tools. They spoke of compasses guiding explorers through darkness, of small snares and traps used to catch creatures without violence, of teamwork that could overcome dangers far greater than any single human. Lyran listened intently, absorbing every word. He realized that humanity's strength was not just in technology or weapons, but in mind and spirit, honed over thousands of years of survival. The Critharians had technology beyond imagination, but in some ways they were still children compared to humans, understanding of life, danger, and adaptation. As the twin moons rose higher, Kane stood quietly, looking toward the cliffs where the predators had roamed. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "we will continue the hunt, not to kill but to learn, to understand, to survive." Lyran nodded slowly, a sense of awe and determination settling over him. "I will watch, I will learn, I will not mock again." The night ended, but Crithar had changed. The humans had shown that even the deadliest predators could be managed with knowledge, skill, and patience. The Critharians could no longer see themselves as the superior hunters. They were students now, and humanity was the teacher. In the days that followed, the humans trained small Critharian squads, showing them how to read the land, how to anticipate creatures, movements, and how to survive using subtle observations instead of overwhelming force. Lyran participated eagerly, feeling both pride and humility. By the third night, a new challenge arose. A creature unlike any seen before, a massive, intelligent predator that seemed to sense the human's presence, appeared near the outpost. Its eyes glowed red and its roar shook the ground. The Critharians froze, unsure of how to act. Kane's team moved immediately, following the path they had prepared and the markers they had set. They used compasses to navigate the terrain and ropes to anticipate the creature's movements. Lyran watched in silent awe as the humans coordinated their every action, never panicking, never hesitating, and always moving as one. The creature charged, and for the first time it seemed that instinct alone might not be enough. But Kane signaled the team to hold, and together they guided the predator into a narrow canyon where its size became a disadvantage. The humans' patience and strategy turned what seemed impossible into triumph once again. By dawn, the predator was safely immobilized, and the Critharians had witnessed something extraordinary. Lyran stepped forward, humbled and amazed. "We mocked Earth, and yet Earth shows us mastery we cannot imagine. These humans are not merely hunters, they are teachers." Kane nodded, satisfied but quiet. "Respect the land, respect the creatures, respect each other. That is how we survive." The Critharians had learned a lesson that night. Technology could fail, power could falter, but knowledge, instinct, and patience, traits that humans had cultivated for millennia, could achieve the impossible. The night of Crithar was no longer just a challenge. It had become a classroom, and humanity the instructor. The third night on Crithar began under a sky blanketed with stars, and yet the air carried a tension that no human or Critharian had ever felt before. Kane's team had anticipated the planet's dangers, and the Critharians had grown to respect their skill, but tonight was different. There was a predator moving in the shadows unlike any they had seen, a creature not only massive, but clever, able to outthink its hunters in ways that seemed almost intelligent. Instructor Lyran had never felt such unease. He had trained his hunters for decades, and while Crithar's night held many dangers, none had challenged him like this. He followed Kane's team silently, his every sense alert. "It knows we are coming," he whispered, his voice almost a growl. "It watches us." Kane crouched beside a small ridge, his hand steady on the compass. "It is aware," he admitted softly. "That is why we must be smarter, watch and learn, every step matters." The humans moved as one. Zara, the navigator, led a small team along faint ridges, marking invisible paths that only those trained to understand could follow. Small sensors detected vibrations in the soil, but Kane relied on instinct and his compass. Every movement was calculated, every pause measured. The Critharians whispered to each other, unable to hide their fear and admiration. "How do they see the unseen?" one asked. "They have no sensors, no weapons, and yet they navigate perfectly." Lyran shook his head. "It is more than seeing," he said. "It is understanding." The humans do not react, they anticipate. The massive predator, a shadow stretching across the cliffs, roared as it circled them. Its eyes glowed faint red in the moonlight, and its heavy steps sent tremors through the soil. Every time the humans paused, the creature adjusted, testing, probing, trying to find an opening. Kane signaled to his team, and they split into smaller groups. Each human had a role. Some would guide the predator, others would anticipate its moves, and a few would set weighted snares along the path. Lyran followed closely, his curiosity burning brighter than his fear. "Observe the pattern," Kane whispered to one of his team. "Notice how it tests the terrain. Every hesitation reveals its intention." The humans crouched silently, their eyes reflecting moonlight, their hands moving with precision. They were silent, yet their coordination was perfect. Lyran had never seen such focus. The Critharians, scanners, and weapons were useless. They could not read the subtle shifts of weight, the slight pause before a step, the quiet exhale that hinted at an intention. Suddenly, the predator lunged toward a narrow gorge, its massive form blocking the path. One human stepped forward, a small rope in hand, anchoring it to a boulder. Another shifted to guide the creature's path. Kane moved in front, holding nothing but a small flashlight, its beam subtle, guiding without frightening. The predator growled, thrashing and snapping at the humans, but they did not flinch. Every movement was deliberate, every step was predicted. They used the predator's strength against itself, leading it toward a natural trap, an uneven cliffside where its size became a disadvantage. Lyran could hardly believe his eyes. "They are not just hunting," he whispered. "They are teaching the predator its own limits." Hours passed, and the humans adjusted their strategy as the creature adapted. Each pause, each hesitation was met with subtle correction. They did not strike with weapons, they did not force with technology, they guided. Finally, the predator stumbled into the gorge, its path blocked by a carefully placed series of ropes and weighted snares. It roared in frustration, but Kane's team remained calm. One human approached slowly, speaking in low tones. The creature, sensing no malice, stopped struggling. Kane nodded to his team, and together they secured the predator for observation, unharmed beyond its immobilization. The Critharians were stunned. "It is impossible," Zrin whispered. "We could not have done this in 100 years of training." Lyran stepped forward, his pride and fear mingling into awe. "The humans, they do not fight, they think, they anticipate, they survive." Kane addressed the Critharians. "Do you see why patience matters? Why observation is stronger than force?" he asked. "This predator could have destroyed us if we had tried to overpower it. Instead, we used knowledge, instinct, and cooperation." The Critharians were silent. For the first time, they realized that strength and technology were not the only paths to survival. The humans' calm mastery of the hunt had turned an almost impossible situation into triumph. As the creature was guided safely into the enclosure, Lyran noticed the subtle ways the humans communicated. Tiny hand signals, slight shifts of posture, whispered commands. Every member of the team knew exactly what the others were doing. It was not technology that allowed this success, but understanding and trust. Zara, kneeling beside a snare, whispered, "It is amazing how calm they are, even in the face of danger." Kane looked toward the horizon, the twin moons casting silver light over the jagged cliffs. "We have trained for this," he said, "but training alone is not enough. You must understand the rhythm of life, the patterns of danger. That is what gives us an advantage." The Cretharians began to ask questions, watching and learning. How did the humans know when to move? How did they predict the predator's path? How could they remain so calm when every step carried life or death risk? Kane explained. It is about observation, patience, and understanding. The land speaks to us. The creatures reveal themselves if you know what to watch for. Fear blinds you, calm reveals the truth. Lyran felt a strange humility settle over him. He had always believed his people were superior hunters, relying on technology and raw strength. But the humans had shown him a different path. A path where intelligence, teamwork, and respect for life were more important than any weapon or scanner. That night, the humans guided the Cretharians to a safe water source. The predators were kept at a distance, but the lesson had been clear. Survival was not about domination, it was about understanding. Around the fire, Kane shared stories of Earth's hunters, how people had survived deserts, jungles, and forests using only the simplest tools. They spoke of compasses guiding explorers through darkness, of teamwork that overcame dangers far greater than any single human, of patience that turned threats into opportunities. Lyran listened, taking in every detail. He realized that human strength was not in their weapons, but in their mind, spirit, and ability to adapt. They had survived and thrived for thousands of years, not by overpowering every threat, but by understanding and respecting it. The night stretched on, and the Cretharians began practicing under human guidance. They learned to observe the land, read subtle signals, and anticipate the movement of predators. Their technology remained useful, but they saw now that it could not replace skill and intuition. As the twin moons climbed higher, a new challenge emerged. Far in the distance, a massive shadow moved across the cliffs, an alpha predator, intelligent and cunning, observing the humans and Cretharians alike. Its eyes glowed like embers, and its roar carried across the plains, announcing its presence. Kane assessed the situation calmly. "This one will test us," he said. "We cannot confront it with strength alone. We must think, anticipate, and act as one." The humans split into smaller groups, each responsible for guiding the predator's movements, predicting its behavior, and maintaining control without confrontation. Lyran followed closely, learning every gesture, every subtle signal. The alpha predator moved like a shadow across the cliffs, avoiding traps, testing the humans, looking for weakness. But Kane's team remained synchronized. Every motion had purpose. Every pause was intentional. Lyran watched in amazement. The humans anticipated the creature's moves before it made them, guided its path without violence, and maintained control where technology failed. Their compasses, their markers, their instinctive knowledge of terrain allowed them to navigate perfectly even in the deepest darkness. Finally, after hours of careful maneuvering, the alpha predator was trapped within a narrow gorge. It struggled, but the humans' patience and strategy held. Kane approached slowly, speaking softly. The creature paused, recognizing calm instead of aggression. Kane nodded to his team, and together they secured the predator. The Cretharians were silent, stunned by what they had witnessed. Lyran finally spoke, his voice heavy with respect. "These humans, they are not merely hunters. They are masters of survival, guides of life and death without striking a blow. They see what we cannot. They understand what we cannot." Kane looked at Lyran, calm but proud. "Respect the creatures, respect the land, respect each other. That is how we survive," he said. The Cretharians had learned a lesson they would never forget. Technology could fail, power could falter, but knowledge, patience, and cooperation, the human way, could overcome even the deadliest predators. By the time dawn approached, the humans had guided the Cretharians safely back to the outpost. The predators were secure, the lessons were clear, and the Cretharians were forever changed. They now saw humanity not as a primitive species with simple tools, but as a master of survival, strategy, and understanding. Lyran knelt by the fire, watching Kane's team quietly prepare for the next day. "We mocked Earth," he whispered to himself, "and Earth has shown us humility, wisdom, and strength beyond our imagining." The night of Crithar had tested everyone, but it had proven one truth. Survival was not about the strongest claws, the sharpest teeth, or the most advanced technology. It was about mind, heart, and the ability to adapt, the traits that made humans extraordinary. The fourth night on Crithar began with a heavy silence. The air was thick with tension, carrying the distant roars of predators echoing across jagged cliffs and red dust plains. Kane's team, seasoned from previous nights, moved quietly among the rocks, their compasses steady, their eyes alert. The Critharians followed close behind, their earlier mockery long vanished, replaced with awe and cautious respect. Instructor Lyran led the alien scouts, his scales reflecting the pale light of the twin moons. "This night will decide everything," he whispered. "If they fail, the predators may overrun the outpost. If they succeed, we will finally understand." Kane adjusted the strap of his pack and motioned to his team. "Tonight is not just about hunting," he said softly. "It's about learning. Every move must count. Stay focused, trust the compass, and trust each other." The humans split into groups, each carrying simple instruments, ropes, weighted snares, and compasses. There were no energy nets, no advanced sensors, nothing that the Critharians would consider powerful. But the humans moved with calm authority, each step measured, each pause deliberate. Lyran watched, fascinated. He had trained countless hunters, yet he had never seen such coordination without technology. Every human seemed to anticipate the movements of the others, as if they shared one mind, one understanding of the terrain and the creatures that prowled it. The first predators appeared silently, moving like shadows across the cliffs. Their glowing eyes reflected the moonlight, and their low growls shook the ground. The Critharians readied their scanners and weapons, but Kane held up a hand, signaling them to wait. "Observe, do not interfere," Kane whispered. "Let us guide, not attack." Hours passed as the humans guided the predators along safe paths, their small compasses and simple markers giving them precision that no Critharian device could match. The creatures tested their skill, attempting to escape, to strike, to use the humans' own shadows against them. But Kane's team anticipated each move, subtly adjusting positions, guiding the predators without ever harming them. Lyran whispered to one of his scouts, "See how they move? It is not force that controls them, it is understanding." The alpha predator, larger and more cunning than any seen before, appeared on the horizon. Its glowing red eyes locked onto the humans, assessing, calculating. Its roar echoed through the canyon, a sound so powerful it made the rocks tremble. Kane signaled to his team. "This is the moment we've prepared for," he said. "Move carefully, we will not overpower it, we will outthink it." The humans split into smaller groups, each responsible for a different task. One group would predict the predator's movements, another would guide it along a narrow path, and a third would set snares along the terrain. The Critharians followed, learning every subtle movement, every silent gesture. The predator charged suddenly, testing the humans. It leapt over rocks, smashing the ground and sending dust into the air. The Critharians panicked, ready to fire, but Kane held up a hand. "Wait, watch." With incredible precision, the humans adjusted their positions, guiding the predator toward a narrow gorge where its size became a disadvantage. Weighted ropes and simple snares held it in place. The predator roared, struggling, but Kane's team remained calm. One human approached slowly, speaking in low tones, as if communicating with the predator. The alpha predator paused, sensing the human's calm authority. Kane nodded to his team, and together they immobilized it without causing harm beyond restraint. The Critharians could hardly believe what they saw. Zirin whispered, "They do not strike, they control, they guide, with nothing but observation and simple tools." Lyran stepped closer, humbled and amazed. "I have studied Crithar's creatures all my life," he admitted. "But I have never seen anything like this. Humans do not fight, they understand. They do not strike, they anticipate. They survive where we would fail." Kane addressed the Critharians. "Strength alone is not enough," he said. "Technology alone is not enough. Observation, patience, understanding, and teamwork, these are what matter." The Critharians were silent. Their pride had been challenged, their assumptions shattered. They had seen their most dangerous predators controlled and guided, not by force, but by the humans' intelligence and intuition. As the night progressed, the humans led the Critharians deeper into the cliffs, encountering more predators. Each challenge was met with calm coordination. The humans showed the aliens how to read the land, the subtle cues in the soil, the faint vibrations of movement, and the patterns in shadows. Every obstacle was a lesson. Lyran found himself mimicking the humans, crouching low, observing and anticipating. He realized how much he had relied on machines and strength, and how little he had relied on patience and understanding. The humans had taught him, without words, that survival was not about domination. It was about cooperation, strategy, and respect for life. Hours later, the humans approached a massive canyon where a group of predators had cornered themselves. Kane signaled to his team. "We will guide them through, slowly and carefully. Watch and learn." The humans moved like shadows, their ropes and markers guiding the predators along safe paths. Each predator tested their skill, but the humans adjusted, always a step ahead, guiding without causing harm. The Critharians followed, learning the value of observation over aggression. Suddenly, a smaller predator attempted to escape toward the humans. Kane's team responded instantly, using subtle shifts in position to redirect it, guiding it back along the path. Lyran realized that the humans were not just hunters. They were teachers, using each encounter to demonstrate lessons in survival and strategy. As dawn approached, the predators were safely guided away from the outpost. The humans had succeeded where technology and brute strength might have failed. Kane's team stood together, calm and collected, their compasses steady in their hands. Lyran approached Kane, his scales reflecting the pale morning light. "We mocked Earth," he said, voice heavy with respect, "and Earth has shown us wisdom, patience, and strength beyond anything we imagined. These humans are not merely hunters, they are masters of survival." Kane nodded, calm and proud. "Respect the land, respect the creatures, respect each other," he said. "That is how we endure, that is how we thrive." The Critharians watched in awe as Kane's team guided the final predators into secure areas. They had witnessed the impossible, humans controlling creatures far larger and more dangerous than themselves, using only observation, teamwork, and simple tools. Zirin turned to Lyran, eyes wide. "They are incredible," she said. "We thought we knew everything about Crithar. But they have taught us more in 4 nights than we have learned in 100 years." Lyran nodded, humbled. "We have learned that strength and technology alone are not enough. The mind, the heart, and the ability to adapt to these are what make humans extraordinary." Kane addressed the Critharians once more. "We do not seek to dominate Crithar, we seek to understand it and to survive alongside its creatures. Force is not the answer, understanding is." The Critharians were silent, absorbing every word. They had been students, and humanity had been the teacher. They had witnessed patience, strategy, and humility in action, and they knew they could never forget the lessons of these nights. As the twin suns began to rise over the horizon, Kane's team prepared to leave the cliffs. The predators were safe, the Critharians had learned, and the humans had proven their point. Survival was not about weapons, not about power, not about technology. It was about understanding, adaptation, and teamwork, the qualities that had made humanity endure across centuries and worlds. Lyran approached Kane one last time. "We mocked Earth. We thought we knew what survival meant. But you have shown us that intelligence, patience, and respect are stronger than any claws or fangs." Kane smiled quietly. "That is all we ask," he said. "Respect the land, respect life, and trust each other. That is how humans have survived, and that is how we thrive here." The Critharians knelt in silent respect. For the first time, they understood what it meant to survive not by dominance, but by wisdom. They had witnessed humanity's greatest strength, the ability to endure, adapt, and overcome challenges that seemed impossible, all without arrogance or violence. As the humans boarded the Odyssey and prepared to leave Crithar, Lyran and his scouts watched from the cliffs. "We will never forget this," he whispered. "They have shown us the true meaning of mastery, not of weapons, not of technology, but of life itself." The humans took one last look at the red plains and towering cliffs. Kane turned to his team. "We came to explore and we have learned. We leave not as conquerors, but as students and teachers. Crithar has lessons for us, as we have lessons for Crithar." The engines of the Odyssey hummed as it lifted from the ground, carrying the humans into the dawn light. The Critharians remained behind, forever changed. They had witnessed humanity at its finest, resilient, intelligent, adaptive, and full of quiet strength. For Crithar, the night had ended, but the lessons would last for generations. Humans had arrived as strangers with simple tools, mocked by the locals, and yet they had shown what it truly meant to survive. They had turned fear into strategy, danger into opportunity, and mockery into respect. And for the humans, the night had proven that no matter the world, no matter the predator, the compass of experience, patience, and understanding could guide them through even the darkest challenges. Humanity had once again proven that it was not the tools that mattered, but the spirit, the intelligence, and the heart behind them. The twin suns rose fully over Crithar, bathing the red plains in golden light. The predators roamed safely once more, and the Cretharians had learned a lesson they could never forget. Humans were not just survivors, they were masters of adaptation, strategy, and life itself. Instructor Lyran whispered to his team, "Remember this. Never doubt the power of intelligence, patience, and observation. We mocked Earth, and Earth has taught us humility and mastery." Kane's team departed quietly, leaving behind a changed world. Crithar would never see humans the same way again. They had witnessed the impossible, humans controlling predators far stronger than themselves, not through weapons but through understanding, not through power but through wisdom. And as the stars faded in the dawn light, one truth remained clear. Humanity would endure, adapt, and thrive wherever the challenges arose. The lessons of Crithar would echo across galaxies, proof that intelligence, patience, and respect could overcome even the deadliest of dangers. The humans had arrived with compasses and simple tools. They left with the respect of an entire world.